As you may have gathered, our topic this morning is spiritual community. And some of those who know us, thinking of that topic, may think specifically of that Ananda village in California, with a large rural property. It's been going 50 years. 2 generations of devotees have raised their children there. There's hundreds of people, jobs, there's school for children, there's every day so many spiritual activities and opportunities for seva. It's a fabulous living laboratory for testing spiritual principles in all aspects of daily life. From these years of experience have come what Swami Kriyananda has said, new definitions of more fulfilling marriage, education in how to live and not only in how to earn a living, friendship in mutual sharing, cooperation for mutual well-being, business as a service of life's true goals, of success in countless departments of life. Now, even if such a place were to exist in India, which it doesn't, maybe none of us here is in a position to actually live in such a place. And so what is the relevance? Spiritual community is very relevant to each of us, to every sincere spiritual seeker. And how is that? Later this week, we'll be taking a pilgrimage to Ladakh. And one of the principles of Tibetan Buddhist is the 3 aims of life, which are referred to as the 3 jewels, are the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Buddha, or we may say God or Guru, shows the way. He's the guide. He inspires. We may also feel him magnetically drawing us to him. And the Dharma, the spiritual teaching, the spiritual practices, the right action. And just as important as those 2 is the Sangha, that spiritual community, that fellowship of other truth seekers, that group that inspires, reinforces the individual in their own quest and helps them with their practice. About the Guru, when I was 21 years old, I visited Ananda village in California for the first time. And about the Guru, I just liked everything about Yogananda's writings, about being in the presence of Swami Kriyananda, and about the Dharma. I loved when I visited the morning and evening sadhanas with group meditation and energization exercises and asanas. But what struck me by far, what had the deepest effect on me, was the Sangha. And I served when I was there with community residents. One of the things we did was serving in a small business. We would scent and package agarbatis, and then they would be shipped to stores. And it was a simple job, but what impressed me was the people I worked with. They seemed a lot like me. They were about my age, but they were so different. They just had so much more happiness. They were much calmer. They were confident and strong. And it's like they were, working hard. They were always going above and beyond the call of duty in these simple jobs. It's like they individually owned that business. And with all of this, no one told them exactly what they needed to do. No one was watching over them. And since I was a child, I had dreamt of such a group of people who could be so harmonious and so caring. But I never imagined that that could be possible on this earth. Yoganandaji, concerning spiritual community or spiritual environment, he used the example of a young sapling that needs a fence to protect it until it gets big enough and strong enough. And likewise, the devotee needs the protection of a spiritual environment until he becomes very strong. And Yogananda talked of creating spiritual environments. He called them beehives, where devotee bees could gather, and together they could create the honey of self-realization. In the early 1970s at Ananda Village, we would meet often with Swami Kriyananda. There would be fewer people, and the whole community, all of the residents would meet. There were fewer people than there are in this room today. And we would talk about practical things of developing the community, of projects, of fixing roads. And yet Swamiji would always bring the conversation around to a spiritual focus. And that spiritual focus was on the spiritual welfare of individuals. For some years, I worked closely with Swamiji, and there were too many times to count when he would be considering a position, a work position for someone, and he wouldn't consider, is this the person who could do the job best? Much more, he considered, is this position going to help this person spiritually or not? He would remind us, people are more important than things. And in so many societies, also spiritual ones, people look for the good of the group as being more important than the needs of the individual. And Ananda has grown into a very successful, well-run, efficient movement, specifically by not focusing on developing an efficient organization and system, but rather by focusing on fulfilling the spiritual needs of individuals. And this is the goal of spiritual community, and it's the only real goal. And so if environment is so helpful to individual spiritual growth, how can we have more spiritual community here in India? Well, it's probably not likely that we can all live together. Would be lovely. But on the other hand, for example, in the city of Pune, about 20 of the Ananda devotees have found flats very close to the Ananda Center there. They can just walk over in the morning and have a group meditation at the center in the morning, or walk over and have seva in the evening. And maybe we can move in that direction here in Delhi more. Another way to build spiritual community here is Ananda Sangha's vast resources on the internet. And another way is more individual participation and cooperation among all of us, among our Sangha, of serving together, of giving, of receiving. And there are many, many ways that we can do that, and we'll explore that at a discussion after the satsang today at 11:30. Anybody who would like to stay for that. Thank you.
Swami Kriyananda, in his book Hope for a Better World, explores the various ways throughout history that different philosophers and different ideologies have been put forward to try to come up with the ideal solution for people's happinesses and for communities. I've been looking over that book, and I'll just talk about some of the things that struck me. And, big social change, big changes in history that have happened over time have tended to be instigated, or have almost all been instigated by one individual or by a group of individuals who came together and interacted with each other, and within that interaction created so much magnetism that they amassed a following, and then that following ended up changing the course of history. Society or that culture ended up changing direction because of this mass following that followed this initial group of individuals or individuals. And we can look at history and we can see examples of that. Of course, the obvious ones are Christ and his few disciples, Buddha and his few disciples. You can look at Karl Marx. In Russia at the time, there was maybe only 5% of the population that were communists. The rest of the people were just going about their daily lives. And those 5% ended up changing the course of history. We can look at Hitler. We can look at what happened in World War II. Look at how he took such a few individuals of disenfranchised thugs, and look what he did to all of Europe and how it changed the history of the world. And look at Gandhi. Of course, he's a very, very obvious example. Gandhi, look what he was able to do with his faith, with his strong spiritual principles, how he was able to amass a following that also changed the history of the world. And Martin Luther King for civil rights. And, it goes on and on. You look at these, we tend to look at society and culture and politics and say, that is so big, I could never have any effect. The culture, the society, it just seems so massive. How could we have an effect on it? But what is the culture? What is the society but a group of individuals? And those groups of individuals follow leaders. They follow strong individuals that have an idea. An individual comes along and says, this society isn't working for me. This religion is corrupt. These priests are corrupt. I want something different. I want a change. I want fulfillment in my life. And then that individual gathers a following, and religion is changed, and cultures are changed. And so we can look at the autobiography of a yogi. Millions of people have read Autobiography of a Yogi. Look at the power that it has within it, the vibration that it has within it. And it is gaining magnetism. The consciousness that's in the autobiography, the principles that are set forward, just to name a very, very few people who are following that consciousness. George Harrison of the Beatles. Steve Jobs of Apple, Vikram Kohli, what's his first? Virat Kohli, Rajneet Khan. These are 4. I could name a lot more. These are people that are following the principles and are using those principles in their daily lives. These are leaders in their community, and with such a magnetism following, also principles of autobiography of a yogi, principles of our line of gurus can change the course of history. We can look at our society now. Do we feel it's broken? We can look at the world. Politics, governments, culture, Western culture, materialism. Do we think that needs a shift? I think the direction that is going in is not a very good direction. So when vice predominates and virtue declines, the masters come and show us what to do. They teach us, this is how you can truly be happy. This is how you can stand up for your principles. This is how you can cling to what is important and change yourself. And with these individuals changing themselves, we will gather enough magnetism to also have a major impact on society and change the river of the culture, of the way that it goes. So, as Keshava said, Paramahansa Yogananda, when he came to the West, he's tried to start World Brotherhood colonies. In Encinitas, he tried to start a community, or what he called the World Brotherhood colony. He started a school. He tried to start businesses for people to support themselves living in community, but it didn't work at that time. And he admitted it at some point that it wasn't the right time. He was thundering in talks around America, talking about the advantages of World Brotherhood colonies. Swami Kriyananda heard that thunder, and he created spiritual communities that are Ananda. And between Swamiji and Master and these line of gurus, Babaji told Lahiri, you can't stay in the Himalayas with our little band of troops. You must go down and do Kriya Yoga in the city, in your household or life. He said, spirituality, keep Kriya Yoga and spirituality at the top of your life, but go blend with the world, go be in the world. And Yogananda was sent to the West to do that, to give that same message. And so we don't need to sacrifice our spiritual principles to also take care of our families. What's wrong is that there's way too much energy going into achieving only outward goals. We need to shift our priorities and return to a balanced life. How much is enough? What is wealth? What is wealth? Wealth is getting what we want. Getting what is wealth? It's being able to have what I value. What do I value? What do I want? I actually want fulfillment in life. I want peace in life. I want some quiet. I want to be with truth-loving souls. I want to be able to create my own environment. So, the gurus, they come, they say, why were you born? What is the purpose of your life? And we ask ourselves, this is the job of a spiritual seeker, to ask ourselves these important questions. Why was I born? What is the purpose of my life? And am I working towards that purpose? And if I'm not, do I need a course correction? Do I need to change the river of my life? Because if we keep doing the same things again and again and again, we cannot expect a different result. And if we think, yes, but in the future I will change it. How old are we? Life goes by very quickly. So I think that's the definition of insanity, to think that you can do the same thing over and over again and get a different result. How many lifetimes have we been coming and doing this and hoping for a different result? The result being, I will finally be happy. I will finally find fulfillment. If only I try this, if only I try that. If only I had a better wife, if only I had a better job, if only I had more money. If only, then I will be happy. I don't think that's the way it works. If I change myself, if I change what I'm focusing my energy on, then perhaps I will become fulfilled. And we think, no, I'm independent, I want my freedom. Why would I want to band together with others and try to create a vortex of energy that will not only help me achieve my goal of self-realization, my goal of liberation in God, but will also be examples to countless others? Because I want to be free. I want to be independent. But are any of us truly independent of outside influence? There's always something that's going to be influencing us. But freedom is being able to choose what influences us, to choose the environment that influences our consciousness. That is freedom. To choose to be able to do what is right and do what is good. And then to be able to walk on that path, doing what is right, doing what is good, with like-minded souls. And then we support each other to reach the goal. We move closer and closer and closer to the goal. And while we're doing it, what just happens to happen? We have fun. We have fun. Swamiji said, the purpose of Ananda is to have fun. That is to find that joy while you are individually lifting your consciousness, transforming your own self, and at the same time being a good example to everyone around you and to society. So the love of God, of our gurus, the magnetism of our gurus, the support of our gurus holds us all together. They have begun a great wave of energy, a wave of consciousness. We can decide, do we want to participate in that wave? Do we want that wave to come behind us and push us forward and become a part of that great wave? Or do we want to just be like a dry piece of wood sitting on top of the wave, and the wave goes by and we float up and float down, but we have been unaffected? It's only by our active participation, our decision, that yes, I want to choose this for my life. I choose God. I choose spiritual principles. I choose doing what is right. And I am not necessarily going to be told any longer by a society that's going in the wrong direction or a culture that's going in the wrong direction of what I should do. So I want to choose my influences. So let's together dive into that ocean wave that is sweeping the planet and be part of the consciousness and be part of the magnetism that is transforming the consciousness on this planet. God bless you.